the signs of the Day of Judgment. And the evil around us, sometimes we might have difficulty processing it because of the context that we are in. A context in which people's first intuition is no longer, let me turn to Allah because of this calamity that I've been afflicted with. That intuition, we are stripped of it by this modern day society. And one of the sunnahs of the life of the Prophet ﷺ that he taught us is to read Surah Al-Kahf on a weekly basis, right? And one of the main stories in Surah Al-Kahf is one that deals intimately, very closely with understanding the evil that we see around us. Or how do we process, how do we make sense of the evil around us? And that is the story of Khidr. The story of Khidr. And I'll just briefly summarize that story. Where Musa alayhi salam is going on this journey with this man that has been given knowledge by Allah. A knowledge that Musa isn't aware of. Something special that this man Khidr has. And the first thing that happens in the story of Khidr is that the both of them are riding in this boat that these people have. And Khidr puts a hole in this boat. He puts some kind of deficiency in the boat. And when Musa sees this, he says, how could you do such a thing? Right? How could you do such a thing? And that response from Musa is actually prophetic. You know, when we say from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is taqriratun nabi, when the Prophet ﷺ was quiet when something was happening in front of him, that means that thing was okay. Because it happened in front of him and he didn't say anything. Because it is hard to fathom that something wrong would be done in front of a prophet and they would not speak out against it. So Musa, in that prophetic intuition that he has, that prophetic way of being, he sees something wrong happen in front of him and he says, what have you done? How could you do this? He's a messenger of God. He's gonna see some kind of evil, or at least apparent evil, and not speak out against it. But he is reminded that this is a journey, this is a lesson. So have some sabr, and Khidr will tell you what is going on afterwards. And he said, I apologize, please don't hold me into account for having forgotten. The next thing that happens is something quite striking actually. And that is that Khidr kills a young boy. Khidr kills a young boy. And Musa sees this. And if you thought he couldn't restrain himself when he sees someone's property being damaged, he couldn't hold himself back, and he said, how could you kill, an innocent person? How could you do such a thing? And again, he's reminded, Musa, you're going on a lesson. Have some patience. So he says, okay, if I lose my patience one more time with you, then that shall be the end of it. We can part ways. That'll be the end of it. The last thing that happens is that they go into a town and they're seeking help from that town. They're seeking to be hosted from that town, and none of the people help them out. However, Khidr notices a wall that is falling. And Khidr goes and they rectify that wall, they straighten it up again. And Musa says, these people, they weren't hosting you, but we kind of need some help right now. You could have gotten some kind of reward for that. And Khidr says, that's the end of it. Right? You've lost your patience too many times. You've lost your patience too many times. And then he tells him, I will share with you that which you had no patience concerning, or that which you were not able to show enough patience to understand, or to sit through at least. And Khidr tells him that as for that first scenario, in which he put a flaw in the boat, it was because from another area, there was a person who was stealing all of the boats, taking every single boat from the people. So when I put that flaw in the boat, it was so that they would see the boat and say, this is flawed. Don't bother with this one, we'll get something else. They don't want to deal with it. It's too much hassle to try to fix it, we'll take the next one. So in that flaw, in that hardship, in that difficulty, there was some kind of prep for avoiding a bigger calamity. from avoiding a bigger calamity. This is an important thing to understand. In the second story, the story in which he killed the young boy, and of course, this is not some kind of endorsement or anything of this. Was a person who was communicated to by Allah. He was given knowledge from the knowledge of Allah that only Allah Azza wa Jal has, that was shared with him. And so he says the reason why that had happened was because Allah had decreed that this person would have caused too much hardship to his family if he had continued to be living. So rather than go through a lifetime of hardship and of sour memories with someone, Allah Azza wa Jal had taken their sweet boy from them while they could still remember him with that sweetness before they had gone through that kind of calamity. So there was things in the future that were being avoided because of this deed. And later on, that third action that had happened, in which they rectified the wall and they hadn't sought any kind of reward for that, under that wall was a treasure that those parents had hidden for their kids. And Allah Azza wa Jal had preserved that because of the righteousness of their father. وَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا. Their father had been a righteous man, and so people had come to the assistance of those kids as an after effect of the righteousness of their father. But basically, again, there was an element there of them not knowing. This issue, brothers and sisters, kind of reconciling between why is there evil that exists in the world if Allah is all powerful and Allah is all good? It has become a stepping stone to atheism for many people. This is the da'wah of atheism. You know, if Allah exists, why is there evil in the world? So we want to kind of tackle this issue with some of the lessons that we learn from the story of Khidr and of Musa. The first of these lessons that we ought to understand is that our perspective as human beings is so incredibly limited. Allah Azza wa Jal has given you limited vision. He has given you limited hearing. He has given you limited strength. But suddenly, you think that your mind has an unlimited capacity. Everything about the human being is limited. And Allah Azza wa Jal is unlimited in every capacity. And not only is He unlimited in His power, He is unlimited in His knowledge. Allah Azza wa Jal, He sees the seen and He sees the unseen. So you find, for example, in the beginning, when Allah Azza wa Jal says that He will create Adam, when He will create Adam, what do the angels say? Oh Allah, are you going to put someone on the earth who is going to lead to much bloodshed? And does Allah explain to them? Says, no, there might be this benefit or that benefit. He says, I know that which you don't know. And this is probably the most satisfying answer when we reflect. We're going to go through many reasons, inshallah. But this is the most comprehensive of all answers. That Allah has knowledge of things that you do not understand. Think about you being on a team at work. You and your team are working on a project, a year-long project. Throughout this year, you've had several different iterations. You've talked to this department, that department. Every week, you're coming up with new information that's coloring your understanding of the issue that you're trying to solve. And after 12 months of working together, you got a new team member. And without knowing any of the context behind any of this, says, this is wrong. You guys shouldn't have done this. That's a terrible idea. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? You would look at this person as a fool. Like, you have no insight into what we've been going through for 12 years. For 12 months, rather, sorry. So, min bab awla, Allah Azza wa Jal, He knows the seen and He knows the unseen. He knows what is in the hearts of every single one of you. He knows what is in the capacity of every single one of you. He knows what is in your past, and He knows what He will bring for you in the future. He knows what is coming in the day of judgment. And all of this, a person comes and he says, why does this exist? The arrogance that it takes to fill such words. Why does this exist? Where does this knowledge come from? You know, there's a statement of Dawkins, Richard Dawkins, which many of you guys might be familiar with, in which he says, the universe that we observe has precisely the properties we should expect if there is at bottom no design. no purpose, no evil, no good, nothing but pitiless indifference. And it's important to understand that even the judgment of something as good or as evil can only be made with an objective standard. To decide whether something is right or wrong can only be done with an objective standard. And the only basis of an objective standard comes from the creator of all things. Who are you to say something is good or something is evil? On what basis? On what philosophical grounding? It is without the existence of a creator, all things become arbitrary. We are stardust. We're just stardust. Who is to say that one interaction of stardust is better than another? Who's to say that when sand moves in this direction, it's better than when it moves in the other direction? We are as though we are those pieces of sand. Who is to say that one of our interactions is better than the other? So it is only through an objective standard, with a worldview that believes in God, that one even has the capacity to deem things as right or wrong, as good or evil. That is the only grounding upon which someone can even say something is good or something is evil. That being said, we have to reconcile two things. We have to reconcile the fact that Allah Azza wa Jal has allowed evil to exist, and the fact that Allah Azza wa Jal is just and merciful. The Prophet ﷺ, he says in the hadith of Sahih Muslim, he says, وَالشَّرُّ لَيْسَ إِلَيْكَ. وَالشَّرُّ لَيْسَ إِلَيْكَ. The Prophet ﷺ is speaking to Allah, and he says, evil is not ascribed to you, O Allah. Evil is not ascribed to you, O Allah. Everything that exists in this world is by the decree of Allah. If it wasn't by the decree of Allah, it would mean some other entity had agency outside of Allah. Hasha. Allah Azza wa Jal is the only entity that is fully in control. But the Prophet ﷺ, he says, we do not ascribe evil unto you, O Allah. What does that mean? It means that Allah Azza wa Jal does not decree pure evil. Allah does not decree pure evil. And Allah does not decree anything which has more evil than good. Allah does not decree pure evil, nor does He decree anything that has more evil than good. That means either Allah Azza wa Jal decrees pure goodness, or something in which there is a preponderance of good over its evil. So let us reflect on that reality. I will speak, inshallah, a little bit about some of the wisdoms that we can take, inshallah, when we observe the calamity around us, when we see the difficulties that we're going through. What might be some of the wisdom? How do we reflect on this? And it's not going to be just one wisdom. Maybe it'll be all of the ones that we mentioned. Maybe it'll be several of them. And this list that I give you, it's not an exhaustive list. There are several wisdoms that may be behind something that we perceive to be evil to have much goodness in it. And the first thing I'd like to mention is that this world is not a world of perfection, and Allah has not designed it to be. Allah has not designed the dunya to be an abode of perfection. And with every calamity that you see, with every difficulty that you bear, let it be a reminder. Allah is showing you, this is not the place that is meant to be your home. And if this is not the place that's meant to be your home, then do not let this be the place that you settle in. Do not let this be the place that you are firmly attached to. With every imperfection that you witness of the dunya, let it be a reminder for you, this is not where I'm meant to stay. What the atheist seeks, the kind of world that the atheist seeks, Allah has created it. And it is Jannah. It exists. But the atheist is irritated. Why can't I go to Jannah without having to do anything for it? Why must I work for Jannah? Why must I work for eternal happiness? Why don't I deserve that right now? That is the irritation of the atheist when they are frustrated with the imperfections of this world. But the imperfections that we see are a reminder from Allah. The other thing that's important to understand is, how do we define what is evil? How do we define what is evil? In the examples that we had from the story of Khidr, in every single one of those examples, Allah Azza wa Jal is showing us that there is always some kind of blessing in disguise. كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الْقِتَالِ وَهُوَ كُرْهٌ لَكُمْ. Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, fighting has been prescribed over you, but it is something that you hate. وَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُ شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. But maybe you hate something and Allah has put goodness in it for you. How important is this lesson for us to internalize, to properly digest? You see something as evil, but you have husnul dhan billah. My Lord does not decree pure evil. All I see in front of me is an opportunity. All I see in front of me is a chance to have my sins forgiven, is a chance for reward. Another thing for us to understand about the calamities that we witness in the world, it is that it is the fruit of free will. Do you think Allah gave us free will and people would have only chosen good decisions? How many bad decisions have you made just today? It is the result of people's free will that there will be people who choose that which is not good. So Allah allowing us to exercise our free will, that means that it is we who have brought this unto us. Much of the calamity that we witness, Allah Azza wa Jal, He tells us, ظَهَرَ الْفَسَادُ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ. Why? There has been evil and corruption that has spread on land and on sea. Why? بِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِ النَّاسِ. Because of what these hands have brought forth. You see evil in the world, you see corruption in society, it is because of what these hands have brought forth. Do not abdicate responsibility from yourselves. We constantly bring misfortune upon ourselves. When we take advantage of other people, when we have greed that spreads in society, these are evils that spread بِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِ النَّاسِ, because our hands have brought forth this upon us. And Allah Azza wa Jal, He allows us to taste the bitter fruit of what these hands have put through. So it is upon us, even some things as inconspicuous as sickness, for example. You see sickness and go, what did a person do to deserve this, right? Do you know what we learn from the data about what the strongest determinant of good health is? The most correlated element that contributes to good health. Do you know what it is? Good health. You're thinking genes. What else could it be besides a person's genes, lifestyle, this and that? Do you know what it is? It is socioeconomic status. There is nothing that more directly contributes to people's health than their socioeconomic status, where they fall in society and the amount of money in their pocket. That means where they can afford to see a doctor, what kind of food they have the ability to buy. Do they live in a place where a grocery store with healthy things is accessible to them? All of these things so much of it comes from socioeconomic status. And socioeconomic status is something that we have our hands elbow deep in influencing. Right? We are constantly influencing this. So when you see injustice in the world around you, why did this happen? Why did that happen? You remember that this is from the fruits of our own hands. Allah Azza wa Jal allows you to see the bitterness of your own decisions. From the wisdoms that we have in front of us is to remind ourselves of the strength of Allah and the weakness of man. The strength of Allah and the weakness of man. You consider yourself strong. You consider yourself strong and Allah shakes the ground from beneath you. What a reminder that is. فَلَوْلَا إِذْ جَاءَهُمْ بَأْسُنَا تَضَرَّعُوا وَلَكِنْ قَسَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ. Allah Azza wa Jal says, why was it not the case? When our punishment came to them, why didn't they become humble? When the punishment comes from the wisdoms that Allah sends, the punishment is to humble you. You're so worried, is this a punishment or is this a test? Is this a punishment or is this a test? What matters is, what do you do with that? What do you do with that? How do you react? Do you become in despair? Does your heart become hardened? Or do you use that as an opportunity to return to Allah? Because then it becomes, what relevance does that question retain? When you think of, is this a punishment or a test? When you think to yourself, I can even make a punishment be a good opportunity, be a circumstance through which Allah Azza wa Jal forgives me my sins. But it comes from taking heed from when Allah Azza wa Jal shows us, manifests upon us His strength and reminds us of our weakness. From the wisdoms of seeing the calamity around us is Allah Azza wa Jal balances the world around us. At-tawazun. Allah Azza wa Jal balances the world around us. Today you had the upper hand. Don't worry, tomorrow it won't be like that. Today they have the upper hand. Tomorrow it won't be like that. وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامِ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. These days, we alternate them between the people. The good and the bad days. We alternate them between the people. Every people will experience sour days. Every people will experience the highs and the lows. And Allah Azza wa Jal constantly reminds us for this, about this. When we see calamity, from the wisdoms is Allah Azza wa Jal, He is looking who will come to their aid. Who will come to the aid of your brother and your sister? O son of Adam, as we learned from the Hadith Qudsi, O son of Adam, Allah says, I was sick and you did not visit me. And the person asks, O Allah, you are the Lord of the worlds. How do you get sick? And he says, did you not know that Abdi Fulan, my servant such and such, he was sick. And if you had gone to visit him, you would have found me with him. O son of Adam, I was hungry. I was hungry, but you did not feed me. O Allah, you are the Lord of the worlds. How do I feed you? How do I feed you when you are the Lord of the worlds? Did you not know that my servant was hungry, but you did not come to their aid? So from the wisdoms, Allah Azza wa Jal is asking you, you care so much about injustice in the world, then what do you do to come forward for it? What do you show? You have the audacity to complain about the injustice that you see around you, but you are not doing anything to solve it? You have no role in this? So Allah Azza wa Jal constantly gives us that opportunity. From the wisdoms of witnessing these kinds of things is Allah Azza wa Jal puts you in a situation to appreciate a blessing that you were mindless of. How many people only realize how incredible a blessing was only after it's stripped away from them? COVID taught us a lot of that, right? For a long time, people weren't able to hug their loved ones, weren't able to be in the same space with their loved ones. The basic components of our life were stripped from us for a period of time. Had trouble even breathing properly throughout the day, right? Anytime you yourself experience sickness, you remind yourself, this whole time, Allah was blessing me with the blessing of good health, and I was mindless of it. And now He takes away my health so that I may recognize. And lastly, what I'll mention here for the end of the first khutbah is when it comes to certain things, even in this dunya, we give the benefit of the doubt to people based on what we know them to be. And I'll give you an example. It's not my example, but it's a good example. You have your phone in front of you, and you look at certain like divots in the phone. You look at maybe certain lines here or there. Not one of you has ever looked at your phone and said, "Stupid Apple, why did they put that there? Why is that hole there? Why is that line there? Why did they make that cut in this way and that way?" You don't think about that. You say, that's Apple. They know what they're doing. You don't think twice about it. Because you know Apple to produce a certain thing. And they do so with a certain quality, right? And you don't think twice about it. Allah, the Lord of the world, has designed this in front of us. When you witness some kind of thing that you don't understand, the first thing is you suspend disbelief. And you understand that Allah Azza wa Jal is the one who created this magnificent thing. And He didn't make you a witness to it. مَا أَشْهَدْتُهُمْ خَلْقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَلَا خَلْقَ أَنفُسِهِمْ. You weren't a witness when Allah created the heavens and the earth. He didn't make you a witness when He created you. So who are you to come with these kinds of things? Let a person be humble and understand where that Allah Azza wa Jal has wisdom in all of His decisions. هذا والله أعلم وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah alladhi hadana lihada wa ma kunna linahtadiya lawla an hadana Allah. والصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. All praise and gratitude belong to Allah, the one who guided us to this. For surely were it not for Allah, we would have never found guidance. We invoke Him to send His peace and His blessings upon the Prophet Muhammad, his family, his companions, and whomsoever follows his way until the end of time. A few minor points to end this subject. From the calamities that we see, brothers and sisters, is a direct reminder to us of the fact that we will meet Allah and we will meet Him soon. When you see the earthquake that's happening on that day, you realize that on the day of judgment there will also be an earthquake. Allah Azza wa Jal, He says in Surah Al-Hajj, Ya ayyuhan nas, ittaqu rabbakum. O humanity, have taqwa of Allah, have fear, consciousness, awareness of Allah. Inna zalzalata sa'ati shay'un azim. The earthquake, the shaking of the ground of the hour is an incredible thing. Is an incredible thing. يوم ترونها تذهل كل مرضعة عما أرضعت وتضع كل ذات حمل حملها وترى الناس سكارى وما هم بسكارى ولكن عذاب الله شديد. And when that day comes, you will see that every nursing mother will abandon what she is nursing. And every pregnant woman will deliver her burden prematurely from the stress of that day. And you will see people as though they are intoxicated, as though they are drunk, but they are not drunk. It is the overwhelmingness of what they are witnessing. But the torment of Allah is incredibly severe. And all of these things, they come as a reminder and as a mercy of Allah to get you to understand before that earthquake it comes. The Prophet ﷺ, he also tells us a very important thing to understand. A person will experience much difficulty in this world. But what will come of that difficulty in the hereafter? And there will be people who experience very easy lives. But what may happen with that easy life when it comes to the hereafter? The Prophet ﷺ, he says, يُؤْتَى بِأَنْعَمِ أَهْلِ الدُّنْيَا مِنْ أَهْلِ النَّارِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فَيُصْبَغُ فِي النَّارِ صَبْغًا يقال يا ابن آدم هل رأيت خيرا قط هل مر بك نعيم قط فيقول لا والله يا رب. On the day of judgment, from amongst the people of the hellfire, Allah Azza wa Jal will pull the person that had the best of lives, the most enjoyable life that they've ever had, and this person will be dipped into the fire. They are going to be dipped into the fire of the day of judgment. And Allah Azza wa Jal will ask that person, have you ever witnessed any good? Has any good passed by you? And they will say, La wallahi. No, by Allah, I have not witnessed anything good. Anything good. And the Prophet ﷺ, he says, وَيُؤْتَى بِأَشَدِّ النَّاسِ بُؤْسًا فِي الدُّنْيَا مِنْ أَهْلِ الْجَنَّةِ فَيُصْبَغُ صَبْغَةً فِي الْجَنَّةِ فَيُقَالُ لَهُ يا ابن آدم هل رأيت بؤسا قط هل مر بك شدة قط فيقول لا والله يا رب ما مر بي بؤس قط ولا رأيت شدة قط. A person who had the most difficult life from the people of Jannah, he will just be dipped into the Jannah, just dipped into it. And they will be asked, have you ever witnessed any kind of discomfort? Any kind of intense calamity, anything like that? Has any of that touched you at all? They will say, La wallah. No, by Allah, I've never experienced any of that. And that is what this understanding of what awaits the believer in the hereafter, that's what it does to the worldview of the believer. And let us take a lesson from that now. Whatever you're going through will pale in comparison to what is witnessed in the hereafter. I promise this will be the last point that I make. There are times in which you go through some kind of calamity or something happens in your life and Allah makes it abundantly clear to you that He kept you from a calamity. You wanted to go to such and such job and then you find out, oh, that was a Ponzi scheme or whatever it was. You wanted to get on this flight and something happened with that flight, caused a great deal of trouble. Sometimes Allah shows that to you, and sometimes He doesn't. Sometimes Allah allows you to see what happens, and sometimes He doesn't. And when He doesn't give you that glimpse into it, it does not mean that there is not a wisdom in it. In the same way that He presents it to you sometimes, you should also reflect that Allah Azza wa Jal has made some kind of khair, has made some kind of goodness in this decree of His as well. So let us have patience with all of the calamities that we see. Let this not be one of the doorways of shaitan when a person asks, why did this happen? Why did that happen? Because wallahi, there is plenty to rationalize the existence of all of these things. So I ask Allah Azza wa Jal that He gives us, thabat, that He makes us firm upon the religion, and that He gives us rida and contentment and sabr and patience in understanding the calamities that fall our way, and that He blesses us with understanding and with conviction. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل وسلم وبارك وأنعم على عبدك ورسولك محمد اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات اللهم انصر المسلمين في كل مكان اللهم انصر المسلمين في كل مكان اللهم اشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين اللهم اشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين. Brothers, please remember that our brother Ashraf Hassan's mother has been hospitalized. She's in critical condition. So we ask Allah Azza wa Jal that He gives her a full and quick and speedy recovery. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to cure all of our sick. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to bless us with guidance. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to protect our children, to protect our masajid and our institutions. Inna Allah ya'muru bil adli wal ihsan wa ita'i dhil qurba وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون اذكروا الله يذكركم واشكروه على نعمه يزدكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. إذا زلزلت الأرض زلزالها وأخرجت الأرض أثقالها وقال الإنسان ما لها يومئذ تحدث أخبارها بأن ربك أوحى لها يومئذ يصدر الناس أشتاتا ليروا أعمالهم فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. والعاديات ضبحا فالموريات قدحا فالمغيرات صبحا فأثرن به نقعا فوسطن به جمعا إن الإنسان لربه لكنود وإنه على ذلك لشهيد وإنه لحب الخير لشديد أفلا يعلم إذا بعثر ما في القبور وحصل ما في الصدور إن ربهم بهم يومئذ لخبير. الله. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. There is a shahada right after the announcement, so those who want to stay to witness that, inshallah, stay and do so quietly, inshallah. Tonight we have Friday night halakah. Please join us with your families. We have the halakah and we have dinner. We have lunch today. Please buy the lunch on your way out. Donate to the masjid on your way out. Thank you. Yusuf?